The next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to make my ears. So ear again is just the ellipse tool. I'm going to click and drag out a circle over to the side here. So I want to change the color of that circle to this color of his face, so something like that. And then now I'm going to choose my selection tool and make a copy of this. So press and hold the Alt key on my keyboard, make a copy and size that down. And now I'm going to change the color of it to this darker flesh color, so something like that. So right now what I'm doing is I am making the outer ear and the inner ear. And you can center that. So if we select them both, so I have my selection tool, pressing and holding shift to select both of my circles, I could center them again. You can play with that idea too when you are making your own characters. You can play with the idea of making this center circle off center, if that makes sense. So you could make it up a little bit higher in that within that bigger circle or whatever the case may be. Okay, so that is in about the right position. I just need to send that to the back. So I'm going to group that and then go to Object, Arrange, Send to Back. And now that's back behind the hair and the face. That center circle might actually be a little bit too big. So what I'm going to do is Object, Ungroup, and now I should be able to select this. Oops, I need to press and hold the Shift key and make that a little bit smaller. And now I'm going to center them both again. So press or click on one of the circles, press and hold shift, click on the other circle, and then hit your alignment buttons again. Okay, so now, I don't think I got both of them actually. There we go. I was pressing the wrong button. That's my bad. Okay, so now I'm going to group them again. So Object and Group. Okay. Now I just need to make a copy, so I'm going to press and hold the Alt key. You could also do Command C, Command F if you wanted to. Okay, perfect. More or less, right? Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we are going to make the mouth. To do that, we are going to use our shape builder tool a little bit. I'm going to just draw his mouth out here to the side somewhere, and then I'll move it into place over there into my character. Okay, the color of my mouth, I'm going to make this kind of dark purpley brown color. And now I'm going to choose my rectangle tool and, oops, I chose the rounded rectangle tool. I don't want that. I want the regular rectangle tool. And I'm just going to click and drag out a rectangle. And what I'm looking for is the shape that will be left when I eliminate the part of the ellipse that is covered by my rectangle. So I'm going to go with just kind of a half, sort of a semicircle, a half of a circle. That's good there. Using my selection tool, click and drag, select both of those. And then my shape builder tool, press and hold the Alt key till I get that minus sign, minus that part and that part right there. And what I'm left with now is sort of a mouth. So he's starting to come together a little bit, right? That mouth might be just a little bit too big, so I'm going to resize that a little bit. Something like that. I could make his mouth a little bit crooked if I wanted to. I'm going to just zoom in here and I could go a little bit sideways with that. Kind of adds a little bit more character to it. The next thing we're going to do, and I'm actually going to move this off of my face for right now just to make it a little bit easier so I don't accidentally select anything else. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a little tongue to the bottom of his mouth. So I choose my ellipse tool, draw out an ellipse shape, something like that. I'm going to change the color to this red color, so just choose your eyedropper tool and then click there. And now what we need to do is select both of those shapes and shape builder tool and just get rid of this extra down here. I'm going to group those two together. They're already selected, even though I just selected them again. There we are. We're good to go. So now we can just move that into position over here. Okay, so there he is. He's got his whole head pretty much put together there. All right, so we'll go ahead and work our way down. Just need to reposition his nose a little bit. And actually, I think the eyes need to come down just a little. Remember I said they need to go in about the middle of the head? Does he look less goofy now? He still looks goofy, but less goofy maybe? Okay, so let's work our way down. So we need to make, let's make his neck. Okay, I will leave that for now. Okay, so I'm going to choose my rectangle tool and just click and drag out a rectangle somewhat neck size. So something like that. I want the color to be this darker flesh color, and then I also want to round in the corners. So something like that. Now I just need to send it to the back. I'm actually going to lengthen that just a little bit so that I get all of the curve of the shape behind the face. So I'm just going to go to Object, Arrange, Send to Back. And that is in back now. So now I can still see a little bit of the curve. Like if I click off of it and zoom in, I can still see where it curves in here, and I don't want that. So I could either amend my curvature of my rectangle, or I could move that back up. So maybe I'll do both. We'll see how that goes here. Okay. All right, now I'm going to choose my rectangle tool again, and I'm going to draw his body. So his body will be a little bit wider than his head, so somewhere around there. Of course, the width that you make this body will affect the way your overall character looks. So if you want him to be a little more wide, that's perfectly fine. If you wanted to do a football player look, you could do that. Or if you wanted to do sort of a narrow shouldered one, you could, whatever the case may be. And of course, rounding this rectangle, the amount that you round it will definitely affect the way he looks too. So could go somewhere around there. I might need to make that just a touch bigger, but I also need to change the color. So I'm going to change the color to this green, and then I am going to send this to the back. So Object, Arrange, Send to Back. So now I can see his neck on top of his shirt. I'm going to just move that up just a little bit. And I could actually center those two. Okay, good. Now I am going to make his lower torso. So right now, actually I need to probably lengthen this a little bit. What we're going to do is we are going to separate the torso, the top of the torso from the bottom of the torso. So part of it will be the shirt, part of it will be the pants. That's what we're going to do right now. So I have the top part, sort of the shirt part. Let's make the pants part. Just choosing the rectangle tool, and I will click and drag up a rectangle, something like that. Choose your selection tool, select both of those shapes, and now I'm pressing and holding the Alt key, and I'm just going to click and eliminate that part. So the excess, and now I want to change the color of this, and I will change it. Hang on, I still have both selected, so I need to just select that bottom part. So I am going to make that blue. That's black, this is blue. I had to make sure. Okay, so now I have part of his pants made. I'm just going to press and pan up. Actually, press and hold the spacebar key to pan up. And because of the size that I made my little guy here, I'm filling up this space quite a bit, and I might actually have to increase the size of my artboard, but that's okay. I just use that 5 inches square as a starting off point for you. You can always increase that if you need to. Okay, so now we are going to make his legs. So make an appropriately sized and shaped rectangle, maybe something like that. And then all I'm going to do for his foot is use the ellipse tool, and I'll draw an ellipse about like that. Change the color of that to that brownish color. And then I'm going to draw out a rectangle again, and I'm going to cut that foot in half. Choose your selection tool, and I just want to select the shoe shape and that rectangle I just made. Shape builder tool, press and hold the Alt key, click once to minus, and click once more to minus again. And I need to reposition that just a little bit. So I'll press, or I'll click on that little shoe shape and nudge it down using the arrow on my keyboard. Okay, I think that might be a little bit too wide. So again, like I said, this is kind of trial and error a little bit. So get it or rework it until you like the way it looks. I'm happy with that, so I'm using my selection tool, selecting both of those shapes. I'm going to hit Command C and Command F, and now I should have a copy. And there is my copy. Now I just want to rotate it. So Object, Transform, Reflect. So I actually want to reflect it. And choose vertical for the axis and hit OK. And now I have two little legs and feet, both pointing in different directions. So that's exactly what I want there. Okay, my next and kind of final step actually is to make his arms. So I'm choosing my rectangle tool again. I'm going to create the upper arm separate from the lower arm. So I will draw a rectangle about like that. I'm going to change the color of that to that green, the same as the shirt. I'm going to zoom in so I can see my little widgets here. And I will click and drag in and just make it just round the corners a little bit, something like that. That's good there. I'm going to copy the shape for the bottom half of his arm. So I'll press and hold Alt while clicking and dragging. Whoops, that didn't work again. So I'll click off of it just to reset. Click on that shape again, press and hold Alt, click and drag. See, sometimes it doesn't work for me either. What in the world? Let's just try that again, and it worked the third time. So the third time apparently was the charm. I'm not sure what was happening there. Okay, so now I actually have two shapes that are the exact same. So what I'm going to do now is let me rotate these. So let's just select both of them. We'll rotate them down this way. So I have my upper arm and my lower arm. I'll just stack them on top of each other so you can see the edges of each. And now I need to make my hand down here. And we are going to simplify the hand a little bit. So as you can see here, we just have sort of it looks kind of like a paddle, which is perfectly fine. Again, these are pretty simple characters. When you get to more complex ones, you can make different hand shapes, which is good. So again, simplicity here is perfect. Okay, so I'm going to click and drag out a rectangle, change the color of it by choosing the eyedropper and clicking on his sort of face flesh color. I also need to make my wrist. So I'm just going to copy the shape, or I think I am. Let's see how many tries it takes me. So I have that shape selected, press and hold the Alt key on your keyboard, and it worked on the first try that time. So what in the world? Okay, now I'm just going to round in the edges. And I'm also going to resize it. So I want that actually a little bit smaller. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. I might have to unround the edges. So there is an easier way to do this. I'm just showing you this way just so you know. So let's go something like that. Okay, so that's going to be his wrist. Okay, so there is his wrist. This is his hand. So let's just round in the edges of his hand to make that sort of paddle shape. There we go. And then the next thing we need to do is we need to give him a thumb, because as you can see in my examples, we have a little thumb on there. That way your character can be holding an object if you want it to be. As you can see here, I have her holding something. I don't know what it is, but it's something. Okay, so let's just make a thumb. So I'm just going to copy the wrist shape. So press and hold the Alt key, click and drag out a copy, and then I'm going to resize it, but I might have to unround the edges here real quick. Pull those in, maybe something about like that. Just so that there's a little bit of contrast and you can see that shape, I'm just going to choose my eyedropper and click on an area that has that sort of darker flesh color. And that's good there. Just going to rotate it around a little bit. Something like that. Okay, so now that might need to be a little bit longer. Okay, so something like that. There we go. Now I have an arm complete with a thumb.